Today would have been the 19th birthday of Trayvon Martin, had he not been shot and killed just weeks after his 17th birthday. Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, tweeted this photo celebrating and mourning her son. His father, Tracy Martin, gave an interview with Vibe magazine about life after his son's death. And after the folks at Color Lines created the hashtag 19forTrayvon, people have been tweeting about what they were doing at age 19 and what they wish Trayvon Martin were alive to do as well. Trayvon Martin's would-be birthday comes just as the murder trial of Michael Dunn gets underway in Florida. Dunn allegedly opened fire into an SUV in a convenience store parking lot following a dispute over loud music coming from the car, killing 17-year-old Jordan Davis. Dunn has said he acted in self-defense. What's so painful about the Trayvon Martin case and the reason why the Michael Dunn trial is getting so much attention is not just because of the tragic loss of these two individual teenagers, but because of the nagging suspicion that if the roles had been reversed, justice might look very different. Because we as a society simply do not trust that the motto inscribed at the threshold of the Supreme Court, equal justice under law, is anything more than a sick, twisted joke. We just accept and understand that if you're a Wall Street banker, you'll get treated one way, and if you're a black kid in Florida, you'll get treated another. Well, Noam Scheiber just wrote a piece for the New Republic arguing that no, we should not accept that this is the way the system works. He has a radical and provocative solution for how to change it, and he joins me now. He's senior editor at the New Republic. All right, Noam. First of all, let's start on this premise that this thing that I think we all intuitively know, like a rich kid gets picked up for something, they hire a fancy defense attorney, they've got a better chance of getting off than someone who happens to have a public defender who's overworked. Like, that's actually the way justice in this country really does work.
Yeah, that's the question. Excuse me. If you look at the case that I write about in the piece, a teenager named Ethan Couch down in Texas who took his father's pickup truck, killed 4 people while driving drunk, and hired 2 very fancy defense attorneys, and they hired an expert witness who came up with this famous or notorious affluenza defense, and he basically did no time. He got sentenced to 10 years probation. I read about another case about 10 years earlier in Texas, similar situation. Working class kid stole a pickup truck, was drunk, killed somebody else. Similar circumstances. Same judge sentenced him to 20 years. And
that's a particular high definition of something that is structural throughout the system. I mean, let me just show this number. Average numbers of clients served by private attorneys, 429. By legal aid attorneys, 6,415. All right. So we know that this system it looks a lot like how much justice you can buy. So what is the solution?
Well, the solution is twofold. I mean, one is you've got to massively subsidize legal services for people who are poor, and not just poor. I mean, this is a problem for working class people, for middle class people. So we've, if we think that, that justice should not be determined by the amount of money that you have to pay for it, we've got to help people pay for it. But the flip side of that is we've also got to limit the amount of money that the very wealthy can spend on justice. And the reason for that is very simple. It is not, unlike, say, education or healthcare, it is not enough to just have an adequate level, even if that adequate level is very high. The reason is if Bill Gates can spend millions of dollars more in his defense than I can, and then that is by definition not equal protection under the law, right? And
right.
If the ideal is equal protection, adequacy or a sufficient level of resources is not enough. We've all have to have the exact same resources.
Let's just say, let's put this in the political context. You were saying limiting the amount of money rich people can spend on legal representation, whether that's criminal representation, civil representation, like you get to spend X amount, you can't spend any more. That, to the ears of the median voter, to the ears of your average Beltway think tank denizen, that is a deeply radical idea. That is a very blunt instrument egalitarian idea you're advocating for. Are you crazy? Are you a socialist?
No. In fact, as I said, in healthcare, in education, I think that the government should provide a very high minimum level of services. But if Bill Gates wants to spend millions of dollars more on his healthcare or millions of dollars more on education for his kids, that's fine with me. It doesn't make me less healthy. It doesn't make my kids less educated. But if he can spend millions of dollars more on legal services than I can, say we're both indicted for a crime, he can effectively buy more justice.
Right.
And that diminishes my status and it diminishes my equal protection
or
rights.
even to sharpen this, right? I mean, let's talk about this. If you sue Bill Gates, right? Or let's say if you're a coal worker who sues a coal company, or let's say the person who drinks some water in West Virginia, who can
just a crazy example.
Yeah, just a crazy example, who sues the company that managed to leak this chemical into the water supply, right? In that sense of imbalance, right? In those places in which we have imbalance, there's some deep sense in which our commitment to equality under law is just being shredded by the fact that we just tolerate massively unequal amounts of resources to pour into people's legal representation.
No question. I mean, this is not hypothetical at all. The rate at which coal miners win claims for black lung, I think there are several thousand claims filed each year. The rate at which they win is under 15%. And these are not people who are inventing black lung, fictitious black lung conditions.
You're right. In criminal cases, we decide what the accused should be able to spend to defend themselves against a given charge. Securities fraud, grand theft, manslaughter. No one can spend more, even if she has the money. And those who can't afford the limit would receive a subsidy for the full amount beyond what they would have spent on their own. Civil cases, we decide what the plaintiff should be able to spend to pursue an award of a particular amount, pursue a particular kind of claim, what the defendant should be able to spend in response. The same subsidies would apply. The best thing about this piece is, even I think if you don't agree with the solution, making it be not just part of the landscape, that we just accept the fact that we have a deeply unequal justice system and deeply unequal access to justice. Really important contribution. Noam Schreiber from the New Republic. Thanks for writing it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
How the arrests of 4 people in New York City, of part of the investigation into Philip Seymour Hoffman's death, is a perfect microcosm of American drug policy. Next.